Something is orbiting Earth right now that nobody launched. Not Russia, not the US, not China, nobody. It's been up there according to the people who have actually studied this for 13,000 years. Before the pyramids, before written language, before we had a word for sky. And in December 1998, NASA photographed it. No press conference, no announcement. The photos just appeared buried inside a mission report. Frame STS-08872466. That is the photo. It is still in the archive. You can pull it yourself. The official explanation came fast, too fast. Thermal blanket, they said. That's it. Lost during a spacewalk. Nothing to see here, but here is what that explanation cannot account for. A thermal blanket does not achieve polar orbit, and it definitely does not show up in Navy radar logs from 1960, 38 years before that spacewalk. If you are the kind of person who catches when an official story has a hole in it, you are going to want to stay with this one. 3 lies, 1 story. This was not the first time something like this happened. Not even close. The Black Night is not one mystery, it is 3 separate events stitched together by people who needed them to be one story. 1899 Colorado Springs, Nikola Tesla is alone in his laboratory at 2 in the morning. He picks up a signal, rhythmic repeating structure, something he had never encountered before. Tesla wrote, and I am not editorializing here, that the signal felt like it came from another world. We know now what he actually recorded. Pulsars, interstellar gas clouds, natural cosmic radio waves, not alien, not a satellite, just the universe being loud. Fast forward to 1928. Norwegian scientists start picking up something strange, radio signals bouncing back seconds after transmission. Way too late, way too far. They call them long delay echoes. Science has 15 plausible explanations for them. Not one involves an alien satellite in orbit. Then 1954. A UFO author named Donald K. Ho tells the press something extraordinary. He claims the US Air Force detected 2 unnatural satellites already in orbit at a time when no nation on Earth could launch one. No source, no documentation, no Air Force confirmation ever. But the story ran and it stuck. 3 events, a signal, an echo, a rumor. None of them connected, none of them evidence of anything alien. But someone saw the potential. Someone realized if you connect these 3 dots, you get something people cannot stop talking about. You get the Black Night. The 2 who knew. January 31st, 1960. A Navy radar operator sits alone in a darkened tracking station. His job is simple. Watch for Soviet missiles. Note anything unusual. Report up the chain. At some point during that shift, the radar screen shows something it should not. A single object. Polar orbit moving north to south, not east to west like every Soviet satellite. He reports it immediately because that orbit in January 1960 was supposed to be impossible. No nation had achieved polar orbit yet. Not America, not Russia, nobody. So, what was it? The military's answer came quickly. They called it a casing debris from a failed mission called Discoverer V3. Here is what they did not tell the Navy operator. Discoverer V3 was a Corona spy satellite declassified in 1992, 32 years after that radar blip. The US was using polar orbit to photograph Soviet territory from space, illegally, secretly, and the Navy's own radar team had no idea their government was up there. Stop and think about that. The Navy found America's own secret, and America let the alien story swallow it. Now meet the second man, Duncan Lunnan, Scottish astronomer, 1973. Lunnan goes back to those 1928 long delay echoes, the radio signals that bounce back too late. He runs the data through a new analysis and he finds something. The echo pattern, when mapped, looks like a star chart pointing to a star system called Epsilon Bootis. Not just any star system, one approximately 203 light years away. And according to Lunnan's calculation, the probe sending those echoes had been parked in Earth's orbit for 13,000 years. The scientific community sat up. This was not a UFO blogger. This was a published astronomer in a peer-reviewed journal. And then 3 years later, Lunnan retracted everything. His distance calculations were off by 100 light years. He had made an error. He said so publicly. He walked it back completely. What really stuck with me while reading this one was nobody cared that he retracted it. The 13,000-year claim kept spreading. It is still spreading right now on TikTok, on YouTube, in documentaries. The man who made it said he was wrong and the internet did not blink. Two men, one found America's secret in the sky, one built a 13,000-year-old story on calculation error, and somehow both of them handed the government exactly what it needed. A distraction so good nobody looked at what was actually up there. The evidence fractures. Here is the official explanation. Clean, simple, comfortable. The object in 1998 NASA photos is a thermal blanket. Lost during STS-88 spacewalk. Case closed, except the orbit data does not match, not even close. The object the Navy detected in 1960 orbited between 216 and 1728 kilometers above Earth and was just about 3 feet by 2 feet in the size. In 1998 object, the thermal blanket, was in a completely different orbit, different altitudes, different trajectory, different mission entirely. These are two different objects being presented as one explanation, and nobody in mainstream media caught it or reported it. Now let us talk about Tesla, because his role in this story is the most misunderstood and the most deliberately distorted. In 1899, Tesla was not chasing aliens. He was trying to prove something far more ambitious. He believes he can transmit electrical power wirelessly across the entire planet. Free energy for everyone. No wires, no companies, no cost. That night in 1899, his equipment picks up something, a rhythmic signal, repeating on a frequency he has never encountered. Tesla writes in his notes, and this is a verified primary source, that he believes the signal is intelligent, structured, not random noise. He was wrong about the source. We know that now. What he recorded were pulsars, neutron stars spinning hundreds of times per second, broadcasting natural radio waves across the galaxy. Here is the part that actually matters. Tesla never claimed he had found an alien satellites. He said the signal felt non-terrestrial. That is a completely different claim. But when the myth makers needed a founding father for the Black Knight story, they took Tesla's words and they stretched them past recognition, past honesty. This is where it gets deliberate, because Tesla's misrepresentation is not accidental. It follows a pattern. It is 1963. Gordon Cooper is orbiting Earth on the Mercury 9 mission. Years later, UFO claims would say he saw a mysterious glowing green object outside his spacecraft. The story became legend, printed in books, shared in documentaries. Cooper, a real NASA astronaut, became the Black Knight's most credible witness. Here is what the actual mission transcripts show. Cooper reported no such thing, not a green object, not a UFO, not anything anomalous. The story was fabricated entirely by UFO authors who needed a NASA insider to make the Black Knight credible. They used a real man's name and put false words in his mouth. And here is the science behind why all of us would have believed it anyway. Per ido lihua, the brain's hardwired instinct to find faces, and specifically angry, threatening faces in random patterns. University of New South Wales researchers confirmed it. We don't just see faces randomly, we see angry male faces in the shadows, in debris, in thermal blankets tumbling through orbit. We were built by evolution to see threats in the dark. And someone, whether deliberately or not, handed us the perfect dark shape to project our fear onto. Here is what I could not shake after weeks in these documents. 3 separate fabrications. Tesla misquoted. Cooper invented it. Lunan's retraction buried. Each one added a layer of credibility the story did not earn. That is not confusion, that is construction. What the myth is for. Right now on your phone, the Black Knight is trending not because new evidence emerged, not because something changed. Here is what nobody talks about. In 1992, the Corona spy program was declassified. The actual secret behind the 1960 radar detection was made public available to anyone. The myth should have died in 1992. Instead, it accelerated. In 1997, the internet goes mainstream. 1998, NASA releases the STS-88 photos. The timing, I will let you decide what to make of it. The debunkers are accidentally funding the myth. Think about that. Here is where my investigation hit a wall, a hard one. The Navy radar operator who detected the 1960 object, I could not find his name anywhere in any declassified document, in any archive. The internal NASA communications about the STS-88 EVA, the spacewalk where the blanket was supposedly lost, those records are not in the public archive. I looked. And the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, the agency that ran Corona, still has partially declassified files from that era. Publicly acknowledged, unreleased. The complete picture of what America had in polar orbit in 1960 is not available to you or me or anyone without a clearance. Now, here is the contradiction I saved for last, because this one nobody has addressed publicly. The 1960 Discoverer V3 casing, verified by declassified Corona documents, was 3 feet by 2 feet, a small piece of debris. The object visible in NASA frame STS-088-72466. The photograph everyone points to appears significantly larger. The proportions don't match a 3 feet piece of a debris. I could not find documentation that resolves this discrepancy. NASA has not addressed it publicly. The Corona archives don't cross-reference it. It just sits there in the record. What I can tell you is verified documented source is this: the US government ran a secret polar orbit spy program. The Navy found it accidentally. The government said nothing to correct the confusion that followed. Whether the silence was strategic or simply bureaucratic, the effect was identical. The myth grew in the space the truth left empty. Aristotle said that, I am paraphrasing here, that an educated man can hold a thought without accepting it as truth, can sit with uncertainty, can resist the urge to resolve what is not resolved. That's harder than it sounds. Here is what I know. Tesla recorded natural cosmic signals in 1899 and was misquoted for a century. The Navy found America's own spy satellite in 1960 and was never told. Duncan Lunan built a 13,000-year-old theory on calculation error. retracted it, and the internet ignored him. The Gordon Cooper never saw a green UFO, and the thermal blanket in the 1998 photos does not match the orbital dimensions of the 1960s debris. 5 facts, all verified, all documented, all publicly available, and not one of them has stopped the Black Knight from spreading. The Corona program, the actual classified secret at the heart of this story, is largely forgotten. The object it lost in 1960 is remembered as an alien spy satellite. The real surveillance program disappeared. The fictional one became immortal. Duncan Lunand retracted his 13,000-year theory in 1976. He said he was wrong. He said so clearly. He said so publicly. As of this year, his retracted claim is generating millions of views every month. The NRO Corona archives, partially declassified in 1992, still contain unreleased files from the polar orbit era. Those files have not been reopened. No explanation has been given.